Okay, here we go. Jefferson County Court at Law number 2 is back in session. Court is in session in cause number 331428. And the case is styled the State of Texas versus Stanley Curtis Ettridge. Mr. Ettridge, is that your full name?
Yes.
Mr. Ettridge, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Ettridge, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
Mr. Ettridge, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Ettridge?
Great.
That's good. Mr. Ettridge, I have before me a document that is titled Information. This information has been filed by the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. In this information, it alleges that on or about October 31st of 2021, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class B misdemeanor offense of criminal trespassing. Mr. Ettridge, do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes.
And to this charge, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, and no contest?
Guilty.
Now, are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
And are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Ettridge, I also have before me a document that is titled Judge's Explanation of Rights to Defendants Without Attorney. Mr. Ettridge, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And Mr. Ettridge, is this your signature on a line that is titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
And are these your initials on a line stating, I want to waive my right to an attorney and represent myself?
Yes, sir.
I also have another document here. This document is titled Waiver of Counsel for purposes of entering a guilty plea or proceeding to trial. Mr. Ettridge, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Ettridge, I also have another document before me. This document is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishment and is also labeled as State's Exhibit Number 1. Mr. Ettridge, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
On page 2 of this same document, Mr. Ettridge, there are 2 sets of initials. The first set of initials is on a line next to a box that's checked guilty. Did you place your initials on this document?
Yes.
The next set of initials is below a paragraph that is titled Discovery Admonitions, or Discovery Admonishment. And the initials are on a line next to a statement that reads, I do not request discovery of the evidence. I waive my right to request discovery in this case and chose to enter a plea of guilty or no contest. Now, Mr. Ettridge, are these your initials on this line?
Yes.
On page 3 of this same document, Mr. Ettridge, there's a signature above the line that is titled Defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes.
And on the next document, Mr. Ettridge, this document is titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal. Mr. Ettridge, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And is this your signature above the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes.
At the top of this document, Mr. Ettridge, there are 2 boxes that's checked. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And the second box states that you're waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Ettridge, before you sign and initialed all of these documents that I have just mentioned to you, did you read the documents?
Yes.
And did you understand what you read?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Ettridge, are you waiving a record in this case? Waiving a right to have a court report?
Right.
You waiving it? All right. Now, Mr. Ettridge, are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes.
Okay. State, I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1. State, you like to offer State's Exhibit Number 1?
Yes, sir. State offer states one.
Mr. Ettridge, I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1. State's Exhibit Number 1 is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishments. Mr. Ettridge, this is the document that you stated that you recognize. And this is the same document that have your initials in the two spots on page 2. And this is also the document that have your initials that you acknowledge on page 3. The state would like to use this document as evidence against you in this case. Is it all right for the state to use this document as evidence in your case?
Yes.
Okay, no objection. State's exhibit number 1 will be admitted. Now, Mr. Ettridge, is there any evidence that you are currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No.
Mr. Ettridge, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. And I will also find that your pleas and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. State. And also, I find, Mr. Ettridge, that the evidence is sufficient to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
We do, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
In exchange for the defendant's plea of guilty in this case, the state's recommending confinement in Jefferson County Jail for a period of 7 days, and we're asking that the court give the defendant credit for 7 days that he's previously spent in jail, essentially making this a time served agreement. And we're asking the court also use that time to tax and retire the court costs in this case.
Okay, Mr. Ettridge, the state is offering that you serve 7 days in Jefferson County Jail, but you will not have to serve any more time in the Jefferson County Jail because you've already served 7 days in Jefferson County Jail. Therefore, you will be given credit for time that you've already served. The court cost in this case, Mr. Ettridge, is $337, but you would not have to pay the $337 because the time that you spent in jail has already paid it off. Therefore, the court costs will be taxed and retired. Mr. Ettridge, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, I understand that.
And-
Can I have a question?
Well, a question about the offer?
No. About the proceeding for my cash bond.
Oh, we'll get to that. Yeah, at the end. As a matter of fact, she'll go over that with you. Now, do you, let me see. You understand the state's offer? You think the state's offer is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Ettridge, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. And Mr. Ettridge, you're gonna stand on the X in front of our court coordinator. Our court coordinator is gonna give you the information that you need regarding the court coordinator, the X, the court clerk. Yeah, she'll give you that information on how you can obtain your money on cash bond. Okay, so Mr. Ettridge, please stand on the X, and once you finish with the court clerk, you'll be free to go and you have a blessed day.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Judge. May I
Okay.
excuse?
Yeah, hold on a minute.
I think that's you. Well,
Mr. Esther?
I think he already signed that.
On that blue white?
He signed the two, oh, how you get 2 of them?
Pick it back up and place it back down very easy.
yeah.
Thank you. You can.
Mr. Porter gave me that.
Oh,
It's-
I think,
It would have to be government